The night of space was calm, and the Imperial fleet moved across the black void with pride. Hundreds of ships spread like shining arrows, their engines glowing blue. For the Empire, this was routine. No enemy dared to challenge them. They believed the galaxy was under their control. But then, something strange appeared. A faint signal flickered on the edge of their sensors. At first, the officers thought it was nothing, maybe a shadow, maybe a rock drifting through the void. But the signal grew stronger. It was not a rock. It was something massive, and it was moving. The commander of the fleet leaned forward in his chair, his eyes narrowing. He ordered the scanners to zoom in. The image sharpened, and the bridge went silent. A ship was there. Huge, silent, dark like the void itself. Its shape was unlike anything in the Empire's records. No ID codes, no signals, no name. It was a ghost, a shadow, something the Empire had never seen before. The commander's voice broke the silence. What ship is this? Why is it not in our archives? But no one had an answer. The mysterious ship floated without fear, its metal skin black and sharp, as if the void itself had taken form. It did not answer the hails. The Empire sent message after message. Identify yourself. State your origin. Prepare to be boarded. But the ship gave no reply. Only silence. And that silence was louder than any threat. The officers on the bridge began to whisper. Was it an alien weapon? A rebel creation? Or something older? Something forgotten by time? Fear grew inside their hearts, though they tried to hide it. The fleet tightened formation. Dozens of warships turned their weapons toward the intruder. The commander gave the order to fire a warning shot. A bright beam of energy cut across the void and flashed near the unknown ship. For a moment, all eyes watched. No response. The ship simply drifted closer, as if the warning meant nothing. It was not afraid. It was not weak. It was waiting. The silence was unbearable. Soldiers on the lower decks muttered rumors. Some said it was cursed. Others said it was a ghost ship from the old wars. One young officer whispered the most dangerous word of all, human. The word spread like fire, though no one dared say it aloud near their leaders. Humans were supposed to be weak, scattered, and forgotten. The Empire had pushed them aside long ago. They could not build such a monster. Or could they? The commander grew restless. He sent drones forward to scan the unknown vessel. The tiny machines zipped across space, shining their lights across the hull. What they saw made them stop. The hull absorbed light. It seemed endless, layered with armor so thick that even their best weapons might fail. Strange markings were carved into the metal, symbols no one could understand. One drone moved closer to a black opening on the side of the ship. Before it could send more data, the signal cut off. The drone was gone, destroyed in silence. Fear spread across the fleet. The commander shouted for discipline, but even his voice shook. The unknown ship now moved with purpose. It was turning directly toward them. Engines flared, but no sound, no communication. Just that heavy silence that pressed on every soul watching. The Empire's strongest fleet, 1,000 ships armed with weapons of fire and death, suddenly felt small. They were the hunters of the galaxy, but now, for the first time, they felt like prey. The officers tried again. Unknown vessel. Identify yourself or face destruction. But inside their hearts, they already knew. This was no ordinary enemy. This was no accident. Something powerful was here, something not written in any archive, something the Empire could not control. The mysterious ship came closer, its shadow growing larger on every screen. The fleet readied weapons, but no one wanted to fire. They felt if they fired first, death would come faster. Then the lights of the unknown ship began to glow. A low hum filled the air across the comms, though no one sent a signal. It was like the ship was alive, like it was breathing. The glow spread across its hull, lines of fire tracing its dark body. The Empire's fleet froze in place, hearts pounding, hands shaking above the weapon controls. Something terrible was about to happen. They knew it, and still they could not stop it. In the vast silence of space, the Empire had always felt strong. But on this night, under the shadow of an unknown ship not found in their records, the Empire felt fear. True fear. The kind of fear that told them this was only the beginning. The unknown ship kept drifting forward, closer and closer, until its shadow stretched across the Empire's fleet. Officers stared at their screens, their hands sweating, their eyes wide with fear. Never before had they seen a ship like this. Not in their archives, not in their history, not in their nightmares. The commander finally broke the silence with a harsh voice. Prepare all weapons. Target the unknown ship. If it does not respond, we will destroy it. His words were strong, but his tone trembled. Everyone could feel the same thing. This was not a normal enemy. This was something else. The crew obeyed quickly. Hundreds of warships aligned their cannons. Energy cores glowed bright, ready to fire. The silence stretched thin, like a rope about to snap. Then, without warning, it snapped. A light burst from the unknown ship, faster and brighter than anything they had seen. It was not a simple laser. It was not a missile. It was something far greater, a weapon the Empire had never imagined. In one instant, the beam cut across space and struck the fleet's lead battleship. The flagship exploded. A wall of fire tore through its armor, slicing the ship in half like paper. Thousands of soldiers inside had no time to scream. One moment they were alive, the next, only fire and silence remained. The explosion lit up the void, and every Imperial officer watched in horror as the pride of their fleet was destroyed in seconds. The commander gasped. His strongest ship, his symbol of power, gone in a single shot. Fear turned into panic. Officers shouted across channels. Return fire. All weapons, fire now. Dozens of ships unleashed their weapons at once. Missiles, energy beams, plasma bolts, all racing toward the dark intruder. The sky burned with light, but when the explosions cleared, the unknown ship was still there. Unshaken, its armor glowed faintly, but it was not broken. It was not even damaged. It stood strong, like a giant laughing at their weakness. The crew's fear grew. They had thrown their strongest weapons, and nothing worked. One officer whispered, "This is impossible." Another muttered, "It's not from this galaxy." But deep in their hearts, some remembered the old whispers, the stories they once ignored. Stories of humans, weak, forgotten, but dangerous when pushed. Could this be one of their creations? No one dared to say it aloud, but the thought spread like poison. The mysterious ship did not move fast. It did not rush. It advanced slowly, with confidence, as if it knew nothing could stop it. Again, its weapons glowed, lines of burning light racing across its hull. Another blast erupted, and another warship was destroyed. The Empire's fleet shook with chaos. Some captains wanted to retreat. Others demanded more fire. But nothing worked. Every attack vanished against that dark armor. Soldiers began to scream in terror. They had fought many battles, but this was different. This was slaughter. The enemy did not even need numbers. One ship against hundreds, and yet it was winning with ease. The commander tried to rally his fleet. "Hold your ground. Keep firing. Do not give up." His words were brave, but his eyes betrayed him. He knew they cannot win. He knew the truth. The unknown ship fired again. Another explosion filled the void. Debris scattered, burning metal drifting like dead stars. The fleet was crumbling. The Empire had faced rebels, pirates, and rival empires, but never something like this. Their training told them to fight. Their hearts told them to run. But there was nowhere to hide in the endless dark. The crew whispered among themselves. Some said it was a demon. Others believed it was an ancient machine. But one young officer whispered the most dangerous thought. "It is human." His words chilled those who heard them. The Empire had long dismissed humans as weak and broken. But what if they had been wrong? What if humans had been building in silence, waiting for the right moment to strike? The battle grew worse. The unknown ship fired again and again, each shot destroying another proud vessel of the Empire. The commanders shouted orders, but their voices cracked with fear. The fleet that once ruled the stars now looked helpless, small, and broken. One ship, only one, and yet it had turned their power into ash. On the bridge of the flagship, the commander's hands trembled. His mind screamed to retreat, but his pride held him in place. The Empire had never run from a fight, but pride could not stop death. His fleet was dying around him. One by one, his ships vanished in a fire. He stared at the screen, watching the intruder, and for the first time in his long career, he felt powerless. The unknown ship kept moving forward, calm and silent, as if it was not even fighting a battle, as if it was testing them. The commander realized this horrible truth. They were not fighting at full power. They were only showing a fraction of what they could do. And even that was enough to crush the Empire's fleet. The void was filled with wreckage now. The Empire's soldiers screamed, cried, and prayed. And above it all, the mysterious ship remained silent. No words, no signals, only destruction. For the first time, the Empire understood fear. Not the fear of rebels, not the fear of rivals, but the fear of something far greater. Something that should not exist. Something not in their records, but standing right before them. The commander whispered one last word, almost too soft for anyone to hear. Humans. The black void of space burned with fire. Wreckage floated like broken stars, glowing red as flames consumed twisted metal. The Empire's proud fleet, once a shining symbol of dominance, was now nothing more than scattered debris. Soldiers screamed across comms. Captains shouted for control, but no control remained. The mysterious ship was tearing them apart with ease. The commander's heart sank as he watched his ships fall one by one. He had led fleets to victory across countless wars, but never had he seen such power. His eyes refused to believe what his mind already knew. They were losing. No, they had already lost. The unknown ship did not rush. It moved with calm purpose, like a predator playing with its prey. Its weapons glowed again, and another warship exploded into dust. The blast shook nearby vessels, throwing soldiers to the ground. Panic spread faster than fire. Discipline shattered. Some captains ordered full retreat. Others tried desperate charges, but all ended the same. Fire, silence, death. The fleet that had ruled the galaxy was dying before their eyes. The commander slammed his fist on the console, his voice shaking with both anger and fear. Hold the line. We are the Empire. We do not run. But even as he spoke, his voice cracked. He saw the fear in his officers' faces. They no longer believed him. His words were empty against the truth. The Empire's power meant nothing to this enemy. Their weapons were useless. Their numbers were worthless. Pride could not stop destruction. Ships scattered across the battlefield, some firing wildly, others trying to escape into the void. But the mysterious vessel struck them down with precision. Each shot was perfect. Each blast turned another proud warship into burning fragments. It was not a battle. It was execution. The unknown ship fought with control, as if it was not even trying. That was what made it terrifying. If this was only a fraction of its strength, then what was it truly capable of? Across the lower decks of Imperial ships, soldiers whispered in terror. Many refused to fight. Some dropped to their knees, praying to gods they had forgotten long ago. Others cursed their commanders for leading them into death. And always, the same word returned, whispered in fear. Human. The rumor spread like poison through the fleet. Some officers laughed at the idea, but their laughter was hollow. Deep down, they feared it might be true. Humanity had been forgotten, dismissed as weak and broken. But what if they had been building in silence? What if they had returned stronger than anyone imagined? The commander's hand shook. His eyes stayed locked on the screen, watching the unknown ship move. Each time it fired, another piece of his soul seemed to die. He remembered when the Empire laughed at the idea of human strength. Now he was not laughing. He was begging inside his heart that it was not true. Because if humans could build such a ship, then the galaxy was in greater danger than anyone had ever known. Suddenly, a squadron of Imperial cruisers tried a last desperate move. They charged forward together, weapons blazing. Their engines roared, their plasma cannons fired, and for a brief moment, hope flickered. The battlefield lit up as every gun aimed at the enemy. Explosions surrounded the mysterious ship, and the commanders cheered in false victory. But when the smoke cleared, hope died. The ship was still there, untouched, The cruisers had given their lives for nothing. Their sacrifice was a spark drowned in the sea. One officer on the flagship whispered, his voice trembling, "We are not fighting a ship. We are fighting a monster." The commander said nothing. He could not argue. The truth was burning all around him. Wreckage spun across the void. Bodies drifted in frozen silence. The Empire's greatest fleet was turning into a graveyard. The unknown ship slowed its fire, letting the silence grow heavier. It did not need to kill them all at once. It was teaching them fear. The survivors realized this, and their terror deepened. The ship wanted them alive enough to carry the story back. It wanted the Empire to know what had happened here. It wanted the galaxy to tremble. The commander clenched his fists. His pride battled against his fear, but fear was stronger. He turned to his officers and whispered the order he thought he would never say. "Retreat. Save who you can." The words felt like poison on his tongue, but he knew the truth. The battle was lost. To stay was death. To retreat was shame. But shame was better than extinction. Across the comms, surviving ships pulled away, engines burning at full power. Some limped through space with broken hulls, others barely alive. They fled into the black, leaving behind the wreckage of their once great fleet. The unknown ship did not chase. It let them run, watching in silence. Its shadow remained, calm and terrifying, like a hunter satisfied with its kill. The commander looked back at the battlefield one last time. Fire and broken steel filled the void where once his fleet had stood. He felt hollow, broken, and small. The Empire had believed itself untouchable. But tonight, in the cold silence of space, one ship had proved them wrong. A ship not in their records. A ship that should not exist. A ship that had annihilated their fleet with ease. The commander closed his eyes and whispered again the word that haunted him. Humans. The news reached the Imperial capital like a storm. Couriers and transmissions poured in from the surviving ships, each one filled with the same horror. The Empire's greatest fleet was gone. Hundreds of warships reduced to fire and silence. A single unknown vessel had done the impossible. The message spread faster than fire across the stars, and soon the council gathered in the Grand Hall. The chamber was vast, filled with leaders, generals, and scholars, but for the first time in centuries, the hall was silent. Fear hung heavy in the air. At the center stood the Emperor's throne, tall and proud, but even he looked uneasy. His eyes narrowed as he listened to the trembling voices of the survivors. Holograms of burning ships filled the chamber. Wreckage floated across the screens, proof that the stories were not lies. The council members whispered among themselves. Some accused the commanders of cowardice. Others demanded answers. But no one had answers. The unknown ship had destroyed everything without effort. A general slammed his fist on the table. "This is impossible. No ship can wield such power. Our fleets are unmatched. Our weapons are the strongest in the galaxy. What destroyed them cannot exist." His voice was loud, but his eyes betrayed his fear. He wanted to believe his own words, but the evidence was undeniable. The fleet was gone. Something had destroyed them, and it was real. The scholar spoke next, their voices shaky. "We searched the records. We checked every archive. No known empire possesses such technology. No species has ships of this design. It is not in our history, not in our files, not even in ancient legends." The chamber fell silent. If it was not in their records, then where had it come from? What power had risen in the shadows without their knowledge? One elder spoke, his voice trembling. "Perhaps it is not new. Perhaps it is something old, something we tried to forget." The chamber turned to him. His eyes were full of fear. "There are whispers, stories of a species we once dismissed, a species the Empire crushed long ago. Humans." His words spread through the chamber like fire. Many shouted in anger. "Impossible. Humans were weak. Humans were nothing. They were broken and scattered." But the elder shook his head. "Weak does not mean gone. What if they were never destroyed? What if they were preparing in silence?" The Emperor rose from his throne, his face hard. "Enough of these tales. Humans are nothing. They cannot build such a weapon." His words were strong, but inside he felt the same fear. He remembered the old wars, the stubbornness of humanity. They were small, fragile, but unyielding. If they had survived, if they had grown in secret, then perhaps the impossible was true. The generals argued fiercely. Some demanded to send more fleets, to crush the enemy before it struck again. Others demanded caution, fearing that the unknown ship was only the beginning. If there is one, there could be more, a commander whispered. That thought froze the chamber. If one ship could destroy an entire fleet, then what could 100 do? What could 1,000 do? The council chamber erupted with chaos. Some shouted for war. Others begged for peace. Fear tore through them like a storm. The emperor raised his hand, demanding silence. His voice shook the hall. We must know the truth. Send spies. Search the stars. If this is human, we will find them. And if it is not, then we will uncover who dares threaten the empire. His words gave order, but not comfort. Fear still burned in every heart. Across the capital, the news spread among the people. Citizens whispered in markets, in homes, in the streets. Some cried for safety. Others demanded revenge. The story of the unknown ship spread faster than fire, and with it came panic. Parents clutched their children tighter. Soldiers prayed in silence. Merchants closed their shops. The empire's people, who had always believed their rulers were unstoppable, now trembled with doubt. In the shadows, spies and agents prepared for their missions. They would travel across the stars, searching for answers. Many whispered among themselves that they already knew where to look. Toward Earth, toward humanity. The word human spread in secret, carried like a curse, like a prophecy. Most leaders dismissed it, but the whispers refused to die. Something about the destruction felt too precise, too familiar. Humanity had been underestimated before. Perhaps they were underestimated again. The emperor sat alone in his throne that night, staring at the dark sky outside his palace. He thought of the survivors' words. He thought of the images of the ship, and he thought of the whispers of humanity. His heart was heavy. He did not want to believe it. But deep inside, he feared it was true. And if it was, then the galaxy was standing at the edge of storm unlike anything it had ever faced. The council had always believed the empire was unshakable, eternal, unstoppable. But tonight, after hearing of a single unknown ship that destroyed their greatest fleet, the council knew the truth. The empire was trembling, and it would tremble even more when the truth of its enemy was revealed. The empire's spies moved silently across the stars. They traveled in small ships, hidden among trade routes, slipping into dark sectors where no patrols roamed. Their mission was clear: find the truth behind the unknown warship. The council demanded answers. The emperor demanded proof. But deep inside, every spy carried the same fear. They had all heard the whispers. The word followed them like a shadow. Humans. Reports began to trickle back, each one carrying fragments of chilling evidence. A merchant claimed he had seen strange ships near old human space. A miner swore he heard human voices on hidden channels. A smuggler told of wrecked alien stations, destroyed with precision, but no bodies were found. Only signs of human technology. At first, the council dismissed these as lies. But as more reports piled up, the whispers grew louder. The unknown warship carried traces of human design. In the council chamber, the debates turned fierce. Generals shouted that humans could not build such power. They argued that humans were primitive, weak, scattered across ruined worlds. But the scholars shook their heads. Look at the data, one said, his voice trembling. The hull design, the energy patterns, the weapon signatures, these are not alien. They are human. Improved, advanced, but human. The chamber erupted in chaos. Fear began to replace anger. If this was true, then everything the empire believed was a lie. The emperor sat silently as the arguments raged. His memory returned to the old wars, long before his reign, when humans resisted with fire and stubbornness. The empire had won, but victory had not been clean. The humans had fought to the last breath. They had burned their own cities before surrendering. They had been small, but their spirit had been unbreakable. If such a people had survived, if they had built in silence, then perhaps they had returned stronger than anyone imagined. Across the galaxy, soldiers and citizens whispered in fear. In the barracks, young recruits asked their commanders if the stories were true. Were humans back? Could they destroy entire fleets with one ship? Commanders shouted at them to stay silent, but even they could not hide their unease. In the streets of the capital, merchants closed early, and people gathered in dark corners to share rumors. A human ship destroyed the fleet, one voice said. It is only the beginning, another replied. The word human spread like a disease, feared and yet impossible to stop. One spy returned from the edge of human space with a story that silenced the chamber. His ship had tracked strange signals to an abandoned colony world. There, hidden in the mountains, he found signs of construction. Massive construction. Factories buried under stone. Silent hangars filled with giant shapes. Weapons too advanced for the Empire to understand. But before he could explore further, his ship was detected. He barely escaped, but not before capturing one last image. The image was blurred, but the outline was clear. A warship. Enormous. Larger than the one that destroyed the fleet. Human. The council gasped as the image hovered above them. The chamber filled with fear. If the humans had more ships like the one that already appeared, then the Empire was in danger. If they had larger ships, then the galaxy itself was at risk. The Emperor's face turned pale, but he hid his fear with anger. We cannot let this spread, he commanded. If the people believe humanity has returned, panic will tear us apart. Silence the rumors. Kill the whispers. We will deal with this threat before it grows. But even as he spoke, he knew the truth. It was already too late. Whispers cannot be killed. They live in every fearful heart, in every trembling voice. The more the Empire tried to silence the people, the stronger the whispers became. Soldiers who once laughed at the idea of humans now refused to fight if ordered near human space. Citizens looked at the stars with dread, fearing that the next shadow to fall across their world would be a human warship. The galaxy, which once mocked humanity, was now terrified by the thought of their return. In secret, the Emperor ordered the building of new weapons. He commanded fleets to prepare for war. He ordered spies to capture humans alive, if possible. But all efforts failed. Every spy who entered deep human space vanished. Every fleet that moved too close returned broken or did not return at all. And always, the whispers grew louder. Humanity was no longer weak. Humanity was no longer forgotten. Humanity was rising in silence. Late at night, the Emperor stood alone on his balcony, looking at the stars. He remembered the old saying, one he had dismissed long ago, do not corner humans. Do not push them too far, because when humans fight, they fight with everything. He now understood the meaning. The Empire had cornered them, and now the galaxy would pay the price. The whispers of humanity had become more than fear. They had become prophecy. The unknown ship that destroyed the fleet was only the first sign. More were coming, and when they arrived, the Empire would tremble again. The stars above the Empire's colony world were calm that night. Citizens filled the streets, markets glowed with lights, and ships drifted lazily across the skies. Life felt normal, safe, untouchable under the protection of the Empire. But that calm ended when shadows fell across the sky. At first it was only darkness like clouds passing over a sun, but then the alarm screamed. A massive shape blocked the stars. It was there again, the unknown ship. Panic spread instantly. People screamed and ran as the shadow grew larger. The warship was bigger than anything the colony had ever seen, its hull black and sharp, glowing faintly with lines of fire. It made no sound, sent no warning, no message. It simply appeared, silent and terrifying, as if the void itself had descended upon them. Soldiers rushed to the defense towers, their hands shaking as they armed the cannons. Commanders shouted across comms, ordering shields up and weapons ready. But inside their hearts, every man and woman felt the same fear. They remembered the stories. This was the ship that had destroyed the fleet. The planetary governor stood in the command center, his face pale. He watched the screens as the warship hovered above the world. "Do not fire," he ordered. His voice trembled. "Do not give it reason to attack." He had heard what happened to the fleet. He knew if they struck first, they would be ash in seconds. The officers nodded, but fear filled their eyes. They were soldiers of the Empire, trained to fight, but against this monster, what could they do? The warship moved slowly, circling the planet as if it was studying them. Its silence was worse than any weapon. Citizens gathered in terror, looking to the skies, whispering the same word: human. Parents held their children close, elders prayed, and soldiers stood frozen at their stations. Everyone waited, hearts pounding, wondering if this was the day their world would burn. Hours passed, and still the ship remained, its shadow covering cities and seas. The governor sent desperate messages to the capital. "The unknown vessel is here. We need orders. What do we do?" But no answer came. The council was in chaos, torn between fear and pride, unable to decide. Some wanted to negotiate, others wanted to attack, but no one had the courage to speak directly to the intruder. The warship's silence was crushing them without even firing a shot. Finally, the ship moved again. Its engines flared, and it descended lower into the atmosphere. Buildings shook as the ground rumbled under its power. Dust and fire trailed in the skies as the warship hovered above the largest city. Millions looked up in horror as the streets darkened under its massive shadow. Towers trembled, glass shattered, and the people fell to their knees. The Empire had promised them safety, but now they saw the truth. The Empire could not protect them. The governor screamed into the calms: "Do not attack. Hold fire." But one young officer, shaking with fear, disobeyed. A defense cannon fired, its beams striking the dark hull of the warship. The city held its breath. For a moment, hope flickered, but the beam did nothing. The warship turned slowly, as if annoyed by the attack. Then its weapons glowed. One blast of light fired, and the entire defense tower exploded into fire, the ground shaking as rubble rained across the city. Thousands screamed in terror, and silence followed. The ship returned to stillness, as if it had only swatted a fly. The message was clear: resistance was death. The colony's soldiers dropped their weapons, their courage shattered. Citizens sobbed in the streets, their fears spreading like wildfire. But the warship did not continue its attack. It did not burn the city or destroy the planet. It simply hovered, silent and watching, as if it was delivering a warning. The people realized this and trembled even more. The ship wanted them alive to tell the story. Far above, in the Emperor's palace, the council received the colony's desperate transmissions. They saw the images of the warship hovering over the city, saw the defense tower turn to rubble, saw the millions of citizens crying in the streets. The chamber fell into silence. No one dared speak. The truth was clear. The unknown ship was not just a weapon. It was a message. Humanity had returned, and they wanted the Empire to fear them. The Emperor clenched his fists, rage battling fear in his heart. "We cannot allow this," he shouted. "If we bend to them, the Empire is finished. We must show strength." But deep down, even he knew the truth. Strength had already failed. The fleet had been destroyed. The defenses were nothing. The Empire's power was crumbling, and humanity had not even spoken a word yet. On the colony world, the warship finally began to rise. Engines roared, and the shadow lifted from the city. People fell to the ground, weeping in relief as the skies cleared. But their relief was shallow, poisoned by dread. They knew this was not the end. It was only the beginning. The warship vanished into the stars, leaving silence behind, but its presence remained burned into every memory. The whispers of humanity spread louder than ever. Across the galaxy, the story reached every world, every soldier, every citizen. Humanity had returned. They had power beyond imagination, and they wanted the galaxy to know the Empire, once proud and unshakable, now stood trembling at the edge of fear. And somewhere in the endless dark, more ships waited. The Empire thought the nightmare had passed when the warship vanished into the dark, but the truth was far more terrifying. That ship was not retreating. It was waiting, Across the stars, colonies whispered of its shadow, of the silence it left behind, of the single strike that turned fortresses to ash. Fear spread like fire, and even the Emperor's palace trembled. Yet no one dared to speak the word aloud, human. Until now, the unknown ship returned, not to a colony, not to a minor world, but to the very heart of the Empire itself. On a night when the capital world's skies glowed with light and music, when nobles filled their palaces and soldiers paraded through the streets, the stars blinked and vanished. A shadow greater than anything before covered the planet. The skies went black, and alarms screamed. One ship had arrived, and with it, silence fell over an entire world. Panic exploded. Defense fleets scrambled from their stations, hundreds of cruisers rising into the sky. Shields powered up, cannons locked on target, and admirals shouted orders with shaking voices. The unknown warship hung above them, motionless, massive, its black hull lit with lines of faint fire. Every sensor scanned it, every weapon pointed at it, but nothing dared fire first. The people of the capital world gathered in terror, staring up at the monster in the heavens. Inside the imperial palace, the emperor stood at the command table. His hands gripped the edges, his face pale, but his pride forcing him forward. "Open a channel," he ordered. For weeks the ship had been silent, speaking only with destruction. But if there was even a chance to communicate, he had to take it. "Open it now." The officers obeyed, their voices breaking as they tried to hail the intruder. "Unknown vessel, identify yourself. You stand in imperial space. State your origin." The message echoed into the void. For a moment, there was no reply. And then, for the first time, the ship spoke. The voice was calm, cold, and in a language that no alien should have understood, yet every word was clear. "We are human." The command center froze. The Emperor's breath caught in his chest, and the counselors around him fell into silence. That one word crushed the entire chamber. Human. The ancient race banished long ago, thought lost, thought extinct had returned. And they had returned with fire. The voice continued. "You thought we were gone. You buried our name in lies. You erased us from your records. But you could not erase us from existence. We are here. We are stronger than ever. And now, you will see what you created." On the palace screens, the ship's weapons began to glow. The defense fleets panicked, some firing, others fleeing. Bright beams struck the warship's hull, but the fire only washed away into nothing. The ship did not move. It did not flinch. Then it answered. In one instant, hundreds of cruisers exploded into fire. Their wreckage fell like burning stars into the skies of the capital world. Cities trembled, citizens screamed, and soldiers dropped their weapons in despair. The Empire's greatest fleet was gone in seconds, erased like dust. And still the ship hovered, silent, as if daring anyone to resist. The Emperor fell to his knees, his pride shattered. "Why?" he whispered. "Why return now?" The voice answered coldly. "Because you thought yourselves gods. You crushed worlds, enslaved species, and called it order. You exiled us, hunted us, and mocked us. Now the hunted has become the hunter, and the galaxy will learn fear." All across the capital, billions watched as the warship turned slowly, its shadow covering every tower, every palace, every street. The message was not just for the Emperor. It was for all. Humanity was not hiding anymore. They had revealed themselves to the galaxy, and their power was beyond imagination. The council begged for peace, voices breaking in desperation. "We surrender. Please stop." But the ship did not accept surrender. Instead, the voice gave one final warning. "Your empire ends tonight. Your rule is over. You will not command the galaxy again. From this day forward, humanity decides its fate." With that, the warship unleashed a storm of fire. The skies burned as palaces crumbled, towers fell, and the capital world was scarred forever. Billions screamed, but billions more across the galaxy watched in silence. For every world received the transmission. Humanity had made sure of it. Every race, every empire, every ruler saw the end of the mighty empire. When the fires settled, the ship rose into the stars once more. It did not stay to occupy, did not demand tribute. It left silence and ruin, a message stronger than any treaty. The galaxy now knew. The exiled race had returned, and no power could stand against them. The Emperor lay broken in the ruins of his palace, whispering the word again and again, humans. Across the galaxy, whispers turned to shouts. Some feared, some cheered, some prayed, but all understood. The age of the Empire was finished. The age of humanity had begun. And in the dark of space, far beyond the burning capital, more shadows stirred. More ships were waiting. The galaxy would soon learn that what they had seen was not even humanity's full power.